So, one thing I have learned and I know and love about each one of you guys is that you are a force when it comes to helping others. Like when someone needs something, you show up, no hesitation, like you're there. You can be trusted. And when there's a job to be done, like you handle it and you handle it well. You've spent years proving that you can be counted on. And for the most part, that's where you feel confident, right? But today I want to ask you, who are you when you're doing nothing? Like when you're not doing anything, right? When you're just being. And so, because for so many women, confidence is easy when we're busy. When we're achieving and we're pouring into other people, like that is where we feel confident, we feel comfortable. Our comfort zone is there. But when it comes to simply being, when all those distractions are gone and faded away, like that's where our cracks begin to start showing up. And that's where we start questioning our worth and our value and our significance, right? And so, if that's hitting home for you right now, like stay with me because today I want to show you how we all get here, why this is a struggle that is so real, and most importantly, how to hack your brain so that you can step back into that kind of confidence that can't be shaken. Because the Lord wants you to have unshakable confidence. Not because you worked harder for it, though. Today's not about that. And not because you have finally fixed yourself, but because you finally have stopped trying to earn something that you already have, that's already yours. This is a real struggle. So we're going to go over like why confidence is so hard to change, okay? Because if you've ever tried affirmations, journaling, mindset work, met with a life coach, and sometimes it just didn't stick. I need to go ahead and put your mind at ease and explain to you why. It's not because you're broken. That's not why it didn't work. And it's not because you didn't try hard enough. Because if that was the case, we would get A plus in confidence, right? The truth is confidence, it's not necessarily just what you think, but it's also about how your brain and your body have been trained, whether it believes it's safe. Okay. And if confidence hasn't felt safe to you or to your nervous system, your confidence is going to shut down if it doesn't feel safe. And it's not because it's trying to sabotage you, it's because it thinks it's protecting you. Okay. I get what this is like on a deep level. And so I'm going to share a lot about my story today. But as a pastor's kid, I wired myself early on to be unnoticeable, sit still, stay quiet, remain hidden, be small. Okay. And for a person who's almost 6 feet tall, being small and living that way is very hard to do. So I did a lot to shrink myself down. And but later in life, I worked myself into exhaustion to try to prove my value. I was trying to prove that I was enough, and I never felt like enough. I never felt seen. And of course, if you're hiding and you're shrinking down, of course you're not seen, right? But I didn't know that. And so even when people saw potential in me and they would tell me that I was meant to write, to speak, to teach, I didn't believe it. Okay, I didn't even believe it until one day. So here's where it all shifted. Everything I knew about life came crashing down when I became an empty nester. And I know that sounds very drastic and dramatic, but it's because my workaholic tendencies, serving my children, doing all the things that they needed, running them around everywhere to soccer and practice in church, and they weren't there for me to do all that. So my workaholic tendencies couldn't save me anymore. Like I wasn't needed, right? And then the distractions of being busy, it was all gone. I had to sit in silence, and that shook me. So, talking about unshakable confidence, I was shaken to the core. And let me tell you, it was really, really uncomfortable. But that's also where God started to build me back up. And I'll get more into that as we move on. But today we're going to be talking about how to hack your brain. And we're going to be talking about rewiring our confidence, okay? Because confidence, it isn't about forcing new thought. And here's why. Okay, you've got your conscious mind. This is your thinking brain. This is the brain where your thoughts, if you do affirmations, you're aware of them. This is where your logical reasoning is alive. So when I can say I'm enough or am I enough, right? That's a thought that might contradict something deeply seated inside of me, and it won't stick if I don't believe it. And here's why. Okay, because then you also have your subconscious mind. This is your automatic brain. It doesn't require you to tell it what to do because this is where your patterns live, your emotions live, and your belief systems live. And it doesn't care what you think. And it runs on what it has experienced, what it's been reinforced over, like what you have trained it to do over time. Okay. And then you have your nervous system. This is like your body's safe protective mechanism. So, if you've ever had confidence, for instance, if it's ever been punished or rejected or felt unsafe, your nervous system learns that. It files it away. And then what it's going to do, it's going to continue to suppress confidence to keep you safe. Okay, that's what its job is to do. And this is why confidence isn't just about thinking differently and coming up with a new thought, which we will get to that because that is part of the process. But this is about teaching your brain and your body that confidence is safe again. Okay. And here's an example. When I was 4 years old, I loved being a big sister and I wanted to help my mom and take care of her. I knew my mom was overrun and busy. So my sister, she woke up from her nap. I went and grabbed her, took her out of the crib, put her on the changing table, and realized I needed a diaper. So I walked out of the room to get a diaper, and my baby sister rolled off the changing table and broke her leg. Okay. So can you imagine what that does to a 4-year-old's brain? Oh, I totally did something and it was really bad. It turned out really, really bad. Okay. So, of course, I was hesitant to do anything that involved helping my sister or anybody else. I had to ask a million questions before I could start anything because I needed to make sure I knew fully how to do it properly because I didn't want the whole world to come crashing down. And it's wild because I carried that all the way through adulthood. So, this is about training yourself to experience confidence in a way that your subconscious and your nervous system can actually believe it and accept it. So, we're going to do that in 3 steps here. But let's talk about how to make yourself feel safe first when it comes to confidence. Okay. This is rewiring your nervous system. And so, your nervous system, it has two main states. And that's where you've got your fight and flight, that's your sympathetic nervous system. And I know I'm getting scientific, but I'll keep it very simple here. Your sympathetic nervous system, this activates when you feel insecure, you're judged, unsafe, you live in survival mode, right? Your body is going to feel tense. You might have short breath. You may freeze or overthink or shut down. Okay. So think about like if you're about to give a speech or talk about something or say something that might be controversial. What happens, right? you're so think that is what your sympathetic nervous system is. And then you have your rest and digest parasympathetic nervous system. And this is where the calm, the grounded, where confidence can thrive. Okay. Because there's no threat here. You're just enjoying life. Okay. So we have to find what we call the edge of where our confidence ends and our self doubt begins. Okay. So one task for one person could be completely a place where they feel totally safe, calm, and can operate in confidence. And then the same exact task for someone else can put them in fight flight where they're tense and short of breath. And so we're going to get into like, why is that? And again, it's because we've trained ourselves. It's not safe, right? But notice what your body is doing when you feel that self doubt. Sometimes people feel it in their gut, right? Sometimes they get a headache, right? So just process through, like, what does your body go through when you experience self-doubt? So it could be shallow breathing. You could find that you cross your arms and you close up really tight. And an easy way to just assess this and create this list of what does your body do? Because I just want you to be aware so that when something pops up and you feel your body doing that again, you know what's happened here, right? But just think about what you do before a meeting where you're going to speak or a hard conversation. Some people feel this way when they have to look at themselves in the mirror. And a counselor might say, I want you to say three nice things about yourself, right? Like you don't know, but this is where you step out of your comfort zone. So whatever that is, try to do it just to experience what your body goes through and then write it down. But after we have finally calmed ourselves down, confidence isn't just about feeling calm, right? It's about taking action from that place of calm. So you've got to pair it with action. And here's a couple of things. If you find yourself in that fight or flight place, here's a couple of things that you can physically do, practical steps to drop yourself out of that space and put yourself into the calm place with your nervous system. Okay. Breathing exercises, because you're getting oxygen to the brain. It moves your brain from survival into just thriving. Okay. It's able to think more clearly again. Taking a power pose. You take that power pose and you hold it until all of a sudden you can just start feeling your body calm down, and then you're able to kind of do that brave thing. Splash cold water on your face. What it does is it instantly just interrupts that anxiety and overthinking process. And so anybody who has anxiety attacks, you'll know, like cold water on your hands or on your face, like, or up against your neck, right? That is a good way to get someone to pop out of it. And then there's this place your hand over your heart, right? Your heart, it isn't just an organ in your body that pumps blood. You know, this is what we have identified as humans as a place where our emotions live, and where our feelings are. So when you place your hands on your heart, it's like saying, you're okay. You're not alone. It releases oxytocin and reduces that fear response. So I took a class at church one time and I'll never forget it because I was in a hard season of life. And the lady said, what you're going to do is you're going to put your hands over your heart and you're just going to repeat over and over, like, whenever I am afraid, I will put my trust in you. Whenever I am afraid, I will put my trust in you. And she says, you just repeat it until all of a sudden you can feel your body's response come back down. And that works. Okay. So that's a few things that you can do that are completely within your control. You don't always have cold water, and you're not always able to make a power pose if you're in a sitting position, right? But you can always breathe and you can place your hand on your heart, that kind of thing. Once you do breath work for a few cycles and you've just gotten a few breaths in and that oxygen's starting to get to your brain, you know, when you finally get to that place where your body's starting to calm down in the exhale, all of a sudden you'll notice like your shoulders start to relax, your neck starts to lengthen again, you start sitting taller. And what's wild is you almost naturally start taking on that power pose again. You're not closed off, right? You don't have your arms folded and you're not sitting tight. It's like all of a sudden you've relaxed right back into that calm place. And so this is telling your brain, I am safe. Okay. And so when you feel safe, confidence doesn't feel so forced and so hard. It begins to feel natural. Okay. I had to learn this the hard way. After empty nest, I was burned out. I was exhausted. I had nothing left to prove. I didn't have anybody in my life anymore. And in that silent place, I finally had to just sit with myself and with God. And the craziest thing just totally happened. Like I started to dream again. And but but there was a little bit of a problem here because I realized I wasn't any good at the things that I wanted to achieve or do, right? So I wasn't a speaker, I wasn't a teacher, I wasn't a writer. I had convinced myself I actually needed 2 years of like business classes, the perfect website, amazing social media skills, and I'm an analog soul, right? And so the list keeps going on. And I'm sure I could have created like an infinite list of excuses once I had finally gotten good at the other things. And here's what's funny. Right now, I don't have a website. I'm terrible at social media, right? But I'm still doing the thing without all of those things, okay? And so if all those things had been true, that I had told myself and I had believed that I needed all that stuff, I wouldn't be sitting here today. And God, He didn't ask me to do something that I wasn't. He asked me to show up with what I already had in my hand. It's your 5 loaves and 2 fish, and He handles the rest. He multiplies it, He makes sure it's enough. You just have to show up and be willing. So let's go ahead and move on to step 2. So we've talked about how to rewire your nervous system. Okay, now we're going to talk about rewiring your thoughts. So if you already feel safe, you can skip step 1 and you can move to step 2 with the thoughts. Okay, and a lot of people who work with life coaches are very familiar, or if you have done any counseling through the Restoring the Foundations program, you're familiar with that belief expectation cycle. It's also known as the creation cycle. And so your brain, it believes what it experiences repeatedly, right? But if your past experiences reinforce your self-doubt, your brain has built kind of like a default setting. But we can change that. And I had been led to believe through all my history and my experiences that I'm not good enough for this. This, what I'm doing right now, talking and editing and recording, I'm not good enough for this, right? But when you're operating in it, you don't realize that that's where you're operating from, right? That thought. So I had to actually stop and find out what that belief was. What did I believe? Why was I still in constant learning mode but never action mode towards my dreams? Why was I stuck? And so I had landed, I felt I'm not good enough to do this. Now, if I jumped straight to I'm amazing at this, my nervous system, my body, everything knows that that's a lie, right? I'm not amazing at this. So you have to come up with a bridging belief or a neutralized belief, right? So you neutralize the negative one. I'm not good enough at this, so I'm going to neutralize it. And I had to start telling myself, I am learning how to do this. See how like drastically that perspective shift changes? I'm learning how to do this. And when you're learning, here's the cool part. It's okay to make mistakes and to not be perfect. When I did that, when I finally shifted over that perspective, I was able to celebrate the small things, even when it was like flawed editing. Like when I first edited my first video or my first podcast audio, it was terrible, but I did it all by myself. And so I got to stop and celebrate, like, I made it through, I didn't die. It worked out okay, right? People actually still listened, right? And it's important. You need to add proof to reinforce this new belief, this new neutral bridging belief. You have to reinforce it with proof. And so that's where you can build the foundation from there to get to, I'm amazing at this. So I realized I didn't die. That was proof, right? Like I can tell my body, you can calm down. Like people still listened. That was proof that even with terrible, I'm still walking in the dream and doing the thing that He's asked me to do, right? And so find one small reason why this is true, this neutral bridging belief, it's true. And, it's okay to learn how to do new things. And here's the other thing, you can even tell yourself, the next step up to that from that neutral one is you know what, in the past I have figured out how to do hard things before, so I added another neutral bridging belief to the one because I reminded myself I've done hard stuff before, and you know what, it worked out, and I'm going to be okay. So confidence It isn't about lying to yourself. And so I know a lot of people, they're anti coming up with affirmations and things like that. But what I want you to realize is that confidence is not about lying to yourself. It's about giving your brain and your body the evidence that you're safe and you're capable. You're going to come up with things that is true and capable so that you can believe it and keep building that foundation and the proof that you need to keep moving forward. All right, so here's step 3. So now you've got a couple of proofs in place. You're building your foundation, but you have to rewire yourself towards action. And this is the scary part. This is where you're stepping out of the boat and you're being asked to walk on water. So I know it feels impossible. It feels ludicrous. And it can feel lonely. Okay. I know that. But confidence isn't about waiting until you're ready. And it's built by practicing small, silly steps that you can expand upon. And then what you're doing is you're pushing the edge of that confidence. Remember how we said you have to find the edge of your confidence where it ends and your self-doubt begins, right? So you keep pushing that boundary. And so when you're doing that, I think they call it the 5% rule. And so what you're doing is you're just trying to push a teeny bit. You're not trying to shove the thing over. You're just trying to keep stretching and stretching, okay? So identify where your confidence starts to break down. Is it about speaking up, being seen, taking up space? Take one small step towards that 5% push outside of your comfort zone. And the Lord, so I don't know how long you guys have been with me, but the word the Lord gave me for 2025 was speak, which isn't normal for a word that I have had from him from the past. But I'm telling you right now, like, you have no idea what it has taken me to get to this place. So that's why I can talk about unshakable confidence here. Okay. It's these little actions adding up. So if speaking is hard, I want you to commit to one teeny thing and maybe share one little thought, a thought that's not controversial, just a thought in a meeting or in a conversation with someone, right? And so here's how it all played out for me. Okay, the first time I went live, awkward. Nobody showed up. It was terrible. The first time I recorded myself speaking, it was cringe-worthy. So, but I kept showing up, right? And here we are 27 or 28 episodes later, right? And it all started first with me being willing to just turn my camera on in a Zoom call during the pandemic. Okay. Because I left my camera off. So I would feel my heart racing just to turn the camera on. And then I moved on to the next 5% push, and that was as simple as getting on the app called Marco Polo and leaving my friends video messages. Okay. So I got more comfortable with just being on a camera, but it was just with friends, so it was safe. Then it was about making a small comment in my life group. So in my life group, I've never met any of these people. I I see them every week on Zoom and I love and adore them, but it just took a lot to just say small comments. And so one step at a time, you're going to celebrate that win and then you're going to repeat and keep pushing. So this tells your subconscious, it gives it proof that confidence is safe, that what you're doing to push the edges, it's going to be okay. And so I want to ask you, like, what is your one small step today? Okay. Confidence, it's a muscle. You have to exercise it or it will atrophy and you'll lose it. It's not there if you don't push the boundaries. But I want to leave you with this one final thought. Confidence isn't just about mindset shifts. We've talked about that, or even your nervous system hacks. It's about trusting that God, who created you, he didn't make a mistake, and he's given you everything you need to achieve your dreams and what he's asking you to do. That he placed that dream inside of you for a reason. Okay. And then he never asked you to be perfect, just willing. Remember Moses? I mean, he told God he wasn't even a good speaker. And he is my inspiration right now in this season. Gideon, he told God he was too weak to fight. And then Sarah, she laughed when God said she was going to have a child. And yet God still used them. He will still use you, not because they were qualified or you are qualified or I am qualified, but because they trusted God enough to take the step that He asked them to take. And so confidence is built when we stop trying to prove ourselves or compare ourselves or be someone we're not and start trusting the one who made us. Right? So let me just ask you, like, what step will you take today? Confidence, it isn't something you wait for. It's something you have to practice. And if you're ready to stop being a prisoner to fear and actually like start living the life that you dream of, like let's go ahead and work together. Confidence, it's a muscle, okay? And the more you work it, the stronger it gets. And sometimes you need a personal trainer. And so if you'd like a step-by-step action plan to build that unshakable confidence, send me a message and let's set up a coaching session. Like it's super easy. And then I just want to also remind you, like confidence, it isn't about having it all figured out. It's about showing up step by step, trusting God, like He's going to fill in those gaps. Sometimes when I step out, I don't know where it's leading me. But here's the cool part. I believe in you, but more importantly, God, He believes in you, and that is all you need. So take that next step, no matter how small, and watch what He does with it. You'll see miracles roll out before you. And I can't wait to hear about all of that. Like that's why I'm showing up and doing the hard thing. And here's the cool part. I'm going to see you next week. 1:30 Central Standard Time live. But our next live stream, we're going to keep this momentum going because I really feel that this is very important, especially in this season and time that we live in right now. But we're going to be talking about how to trust yourself again after years of self-doubt. Okay. I'm 46 and I'm only getting onto this now. So it's like I've had 45 years of self-doubt that I had to overcome. And so how do you learn to trust yourself again? So if you've ever felt like you second guess every decision or struggle to listen to your own intuition or to the Lord's voice, you won't want to miss this next week. But until then, like go practice living boldly, like you were totally made for this. And I'm really proud of you. Talk to you soon.